It's the 20... It's the 27th of July 2025. This has been a bit of an exhausting process. Oh, just in fact, actually, what happened was I did all this yesterday. I spent recording for about 40 minutes and then converting this to about 2 hours, and then I put it in the shortcut and I was like, why don't I have any sound? Where's my sound? Sometimes I usually just have to reset. Sometimes I usually just have to reset the computer. I was like, I had Master of Reality on through Spotify and that was fine. And then, but I was like, where's my sound through Shortcut? And I'm like, why don't I have any sound? And then I looked at the camera. I'd spent 40 minutes recording on mute, which was just tragic, really tragic, because I was like, that was excellent. I did so well. I was fantastic. It was excellent. I was marvelous. And then I realised it was a stroke. The microphone symbol had a stroke through it, and so I was like, the road, night, no one around, overcast skies. What are we? What are we? What are we? What? Oh, this is a live podcast. This is a live podcast. This is a live podcast. Yes. A few days ago now, on July 22nd, 2025, we lost Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne. He has passed away, departed from Earth. Well, actually not really, but he's in the astral realm now. There's two possibilities. It's either total non-existence, which isn't logical. No, Ozzy is in the astral realm now, or another realm, the other dimension, or he may have chosen briefly to stay on the earthly plane. Depends. It really depends on how attached to the earthly plane you are. If you've been quite attached to the earthly plane, if you're quite, I feel quite, am I pretty? Am I pretty? Am I pretty? If you're very attached to the earthly plane, so there's some souls who have been very attached to Earth and will hang around in the earthly plane. Otherwise, there are many souls who go toward the light. You have to be very careful about that, because if you go toward the light, you could get recycled. And you may get recycled. And it's being tricked by the light. See, there's the black void. I don't know what happens upon death. There is no death, but I think it's either non-existence or you're going to the other side and you do your life review. Generally do your life review. And the thing is, if you do your life review here on Earth, if you do your life review now, which means everything that you have an issue with on Earth, everything that you have an issue with in your life, if you write about it, if you confront it, if you write about it and make peace with it, the Archons will have very little on you. It's very important if you can do your life review. I started doing my life review 6 years ago now. Before I knew about life reviews, I just started to do it. I'm still doing it. It's very confronting sometimes. It can be embarrassing and a bit humiliating and embarrassing, but I've the life review. And so where is Ozzy now? When the soul passes to the other side, they don't want to come back to Earth straight away. They generally don't want to come back to Earth straight away, and some souls just don't want to. It's all part of the Matrix. We're in a Matrix. It's all part of the Matrix. But Ozzy passed on July 22nd. Ozzy had health issues. He had Parkinson's. But not only that, he'd fallen off a motorbike years before. I think somewhere between 2020 and 2022, he fell off a motorbike. And also, we're going back to bed one night. This is on the... Ozzy related this. Ozzy related this on the the new Osbourne's podcast. He said he was going back to bed after going to the bathroom. He was going back to bed and he mistimed it and he took a bad fall, and which was very unfortunate. Ozzy has been very determined to walk properly again and to be able to perform. He'd been working toward that and making slow progress toward that. I think for the Villa Park concerts, I think for the Villa Park gig, which actually happened to be only about 4 or 5 blocks from the house that he grew up in, because I googled it, I looked up the map of London, and I got myself acquainted with it. See, you got London, and you got George, which is about 30 minutes outside of London, and then you got Somerset to the left, near the coast, on the coast of England. You've got Somerset, where Johnny Depp lives now. Johnny Depp has lived there for maybe about 2 years. He was at Switzer. Yes, he was at Switzer. I've actually walked up Switzer Avenue and seen Johnny Depp's mansion from the outside. And in fact, Johnny Depp owns the whole street. very interesting to be there. A bit overwhelming. Very interesting to be there. Good and interesting energy. Good energy. But so Johnny Depp lives in Somerset. But from Jordan, if you go north from Jordan, you get Birmingham, and then north of Birmingham you get Stoke-on-Trent, where Slash spent the first 6 or 7 years of his life. Slash was born in Stoke-on-Trent, and so Birmingham, and I was like, I was like, I don't know about the gig. I don't know about the Villa Park gig. Back to the beginning, I thought, how well is Ozzy going to be for it? Like, how well will Ozzy be? And how well will Ozzy be for it? And I didn't know about, I wasn't overly familiar with the layout of England, of London. And then I looked it up and got my bearings, and then I thought, this is going to be emotional. This is so Ozzy really must have just summoned all his effort, summoned all his energy. He put all of his effort into it, and in fact, on that, I watched snippets of it on YouTube. And from what I saw, because I saw Metallica, I saw Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses is my favourite band. Axl's voice is in top form. Who's going to argue that with me? Axl's voice is in top form. I'm a bit biased. Guns N' Roses is my favourite band. And the Slayer set. I've watched a little bit of the Sabbath set. I've watched a little bit of Ozzy solo, and it was emotional. Now, the thing is that wasn't it so interesting? It was so interesting that it was so interesting that it sort of ridiculous now when you look back on it, but that how Sabbath, Black Sabbath, and Ozzy got pulled into the satanic panic of the 1980s. Got pulled right into it, or they fueled it, and back then we took all that quite seriously, or Gen X, we took that seriously. I can't speak for everybody. We didn't know what to make of it, and then in retrospect it was. It was said, oh, Ozzy Osbourne is satanic and Black Sabbath are satanic, and it's like, well, define Satanism. First of all, define it. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Define it. Like, what is it? And it's quite interesting. If you they said the critics, the satanic panic people were saying how the lyrics were devil worshipping, satanic lyrics. If you read the lyrics of the first Black Sabbath album, if you read the lyrics of the Black Sabbath albums, Geezer Butler is writing Christian lyrics, godly lyrics, very Christian lyrics, which is quite funny, really. And you had the oh, this is satanic. That they were far from that, But it's what it was is that there were bands out there like Morbid Angel and Deicide. There are who were, what those bands were doing was just talking about concepts. They're talking about concepts and ideas, and to push the boundaries, to expand people's minds, to people get brought up with certain ideas about the world and religion and via tradition, and those lyrics that Kerry King would write, and the Morbid Angel lyrics and the Deicide lyrics, all they're just trying to get you to think for yourself, to break down those traditional boundaries that have been set up and hardwired into your mind, to break free of those, to challenge those traditional ideas, to expand your mind, to push the boundaries, to open your mind. And because people get hard, most people of the earth get hard wired via tradition. So think this way, think that way, believe in this, do that, and get hardwired from birth. And so what Sabbath and Ozzy were doing really was just expanding people's minds and giving people a good time, and giving a stimulation to music. And it was remember that Ozzy shaved his head and then did Speak of the Devil album, and then they put a blonde wig on Ozzy, and that album cover has become a part of pop culture. And so we're talking about multi-millionaire musicians. Like Ozzy was a multi-millionaire. Sharon is a multi-millionaire. Do you like it? Am I pretty? Am I pretty? Do you think I'm pretty? Am I pretty? Tell me I'm pretty. I'm pretty, I'm pretty. And then the Osbournes, like the Sabbath, and there's Ozzy solo, and then there's the Osbournes, and they're two different entities. Like, for instance, you get the A-listers who make movies. The A-listers make their movies and they live in their mansions, either in the Hollywood Hills, Bel Air, or Beverly Hills, which I've walked around in. I've walked around in Beverly Hills and Bel Air. Very interesting in there. You usually only get a glimpse of their personal life via the paparazzi. It holds a mystery, because it's a mystery that way. It's a mystery. And with the Osbournes, Ozzy let the cameras in. They let the cameras in. It was somewhere in the early '00s, somewhere around 2003. They let the cameras in. And which gave away part of the mystery, which it was so fascinating, wasn't it? I watched every episode of the Osbournes back then. I was so excited about it. I watched the Osbournes, and it's interesting and fascinating to see how they live. And with the new Osbournes podcast, Jack, I find Jack to be very aggressive. I find Jack to be way too aggressive. And needs to shave that beard off, Kelly looks like a movie star from the old days of Hollywood. Kelly's interesting. Jack is too aggressive, way too aggressive. But those are two separate worlds. And Ozzy comes off as, interesting as always, funny. I find Ozzy to be, and he's an interesting character. He's an interesting character. But it was that the satanic panic of the 80s fueled the Sabbath and Ozzy and Slayer and Morbid Angel fueled that. In fact, it provided for, it gave them extra promotion. It was like free promotion, and it was entertainment. At the time, I took it seriously in a sense, and then in retrospect it was a bit ridiculous, but as I explained before, they were pushing our minds which had been hardwired. Many people's minds still are. Many people walk around like zombies, like religious zombies. Many people's minds are still hardwired through tradition of religion that they were brought up in. And heavy metal music has merely challenged that and broken down those boundaries and challenged that for people to think for themselves, help people to think for themselves and to think outside the circle and to question things, to question it. What is this reality? What is religion? What is God concept? What is everything? And to wake up. Ozzy hasn't been well for a while. And I think that he just gave it his all, as much as he could muster for final bow, that final bow. Wasn't it good to see? Wasn't it good to see Hetfield give Ozzy a hug, a warm embrace, a hug? It was about 1985. 1985, and I was in the corridor at high school, and there was this acquaintance. There was an acquaintance near me. He was holding an acquaintance friend near me. He was holding a vinyl record. I remember that 1985 compilation. I think it was actually 1986, but the 1985 compilation of that skeleton with the mohawk, skeleton with the red mohawk, Metal Madness compilation. And I asked him if I could borrow it, and I think he lent it to me for 2 days. I had to bring it back 2 days later. And on it was Twisted Sister, Warlock, I think, Accept. There was a Dio with a song called Hungry for Heaven. I was sold on that straight away. And then there was another artist on there, Ozzy Osbourne. Now the name grabbed me straight away. Straight away I was like, I like the name. Ozzy Osbourne, I like that name. It's really interesting. And I think Bark at the Moon was the last track on side A. And when that came on, I wasn't like, I think I like it. I think I really like it. I was sold instantly on the spot. I was sold. I was in. That was it for me. And my life changed. It was instant. And I was like, wow, who is this? And I gave the record back a couple of days later. For some odd reason, I did not go out and buy Bark at the Moon. In fact, a month later, The Ultimate Sin came out. The Ultimate Sin came out. And so, Shot in the Dark, Richard Wilkins from MTV was playing Shot in the Dark all the time. And I probably heard Sabbath first via Rage. Rage is an all-night music TV program here in Sydney, Australia. And it's I think it also shows in the rest of Australia, but in Sydney, Australia, all-night music program. I'm pretty. Ooh. I likely heard Sabbath first on Rage, because I would see everything on Rage. I probably heard Sabbath first on Rage. And because Richard Wilkins didn't play, I don't think he played any Sabbath, but he did play some Ozzy. Okay, so my mum had a friend that she would visit down in the avenues of Campsie. I think it was in, I can't remember the name of the street. It's back behind Campsie Street. And she would visit her friend. Now, her friend's daughter was in public school with me at Harcourt. I went to Harcourt. You can look that up on Google Maps if you like, Harcourt. And actually, you got Harcourt Public, right? Come up along 9th Avenue, and the first street on the right, go along that street on the right-hand side, and there used to be a house. That's where they lived. And I would go over there. I'd go into my friend's room, and she'd play me Led Zeppelin. She'd play me Twisted Sister. She'd play me Led Zeppelin, Twisted Sister, AC/DC, Metallica. It's the first time. Slayer. That was where I heard Rain in Blood for the first time on loud volume. and she'd play me AC/DC, and she'd play me, I think she put on Technical Ecstasy, and I was like, oh, because I'd heard the Bark at the Moon on the Metal Band compilation, and she played me Sabbath. I was like, oh, that voice, I've heard that voice before. She said, Ozzy. I said, yeah, the Bark at the Moon. She said, yeah, Sabbath, Ozzy. I'm like, huh? No one really helped me. No one helped. There was metalheads in high school, but I was from them. They used to make fun of me. It took me a long time to figure it out for myself. And so I did. What's this here? Am I pretty? Am I pretty? Now, Radiance. And I heard Bon Jovi there for the first time as well. Oh, that's right. So no one would help me out. There were metalheads at high school, but they taunted me. And they didn't help me out at all. I like my rules. Born Again is a great album. Ozzy, yeah, and the best concert that I've ever been to was Ozzy and Zakk Wylde at the Sydney Entertainment Centre in 1998. Amazing, incredible, fantastic concert. Ozzy had a lot of energy. He was passionate and sincere. He was jumping up and down, throwing buckets of water on us. Zakk Wylde without the beard. Oh, I much prefer Zakk Wylde without the beard. Never liked Zakk Wylde's beard. Never liked it. Because what happened was, Ozzy came here in '98 with Zakk, and then I think the next time they came back was about 2003 or 2004, somewhere around there, maybe 2005. I've seen Ozzy 5 times solo. And what happened was, the next time we saw Zakk with Ozzy, Zakk looked like Farmer Joe. My goodness. And I loved the Zakk Wylde with the leopard pants. I loved that Zakk. And never liked that beard. And every time that Ozzy came to Sydney, I saw him. Unfortunately, I've never seen Ozzy with Sabbath. Never seen Ozzy with Sabbath. And seeing Ozzy live was amazing, absolutely amazing. I was going to say something and I forgot what it was. I was going to say something I forgot. Maybe it'll come back to me. Oh, that's right. That's actually... Okay, so my first ever... The first international gig that I attended was when Motley Crue came to Sydney for the Dr. Feelgood tour in 1990. I was in Year 12 at Dulwich, Year 7 to 11 at Canterbury Boys, and I did my HSC at Dulwich. And I had to get out of Canterbury. Canterbury wasn't doing well for me. And Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood, 1990, Sydney Entertainment Centre. And then every time after that, Vince looked tired. But I get way off track here, way off track. and Guns N' Roses 93 Eastern Creek, and I appreciated the Ultimate Sin album. I appreciated the Ultimate Sin album. I completely bypassed the Blizzard of Oz era and Diary of a Madman era. Didn't get into it. Didn't discover it. I discovered Blizzard of Oz somewhere in the zeros. Probably discovered it probably somewhere around. I would have heard it somewhere in the zeros, but then probably heard it around 2015 or later. I have to be in the mood for Diary of a Madman. I prefer Blizzard of Oz. But my sentimental favourite is Bark at the Moon. A few weeks back, and I had a dilemma because I thought, well, Bark at the Moon was my sentimental favourite, and then I'm like, but is it? And then I decided that it wasn't. I just decided, no, everything, the album takes a nosedive after the title track. And then I went back to it. I thought, I need to verify this. And I listened to the whole album, Bark at the Moon, terrific album. Bark at the Moon is it is my sentimental favourite. It's a terrific album. And then I had, with Osmosis, because I never fully appreciated the No More Tears album. Just didn't completely get into it. Just no. And when Osmosis came out, I listened to Osmosis a lot when it came out. We go driving in my friend's car at the time and we play Osmosis. And then I didn't hear Osmosis for like 25 years. I didn't hear Osmosis. And then a few years ago, I went back to Osmosis and heard it. And it was, I was like, no, I usually call it Perry Mason. I always call Osmosis Perry Mason for some reason. And I thought, no, the songs are too long. They're too long. No, it's... And then I dismissed it again. And then I went back to Osmosis about 3 weeks ago, just at the Villa Park, just before the Villa Park gig. I went, and I was like, no, these songs are too long. And then Thunder Underground, I wanted to understand it more. So what happened was, I was like, no, I'm never listening to Thunder Underground again. I'm never listening to Osmosis ever again. I don't need to. I don't want to. I'm not going to. And then a few days later, I went back and I listened to Thunder Underground. And I was like, it's interesting. And I listened to See You on the Other Side. And really started to appreciate it. Osmosis is a very interesting album. I think Osmosis is more interesting to me than No More Tears. I think I prefer it. And of course, when No Rest for the Wicked came out, I was all over it. I was all over No Rest for the Wicked. The Zakk Wylde's introduction. And what is it? Jeff Wyland, isn't it? It's Jeff Wyland. And so I totally bypassed the while everybody else was getting into Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, I was oblivious to it. Because I also discovered Holy Diver and Sacred Heart and Last in Line. Because I liked Hungry for Heaven, so I just bought Holy Diver. And liked it. And that sort of monster, that character that appears on Dio's album covers, never liked it. Never liked it. And haunting, just never liked it. Always had issues with that. But so yeah, I was oblivious to Blizzard of Oz, and would hear Crazy Train on Rage often. Never understood Blizzard of Oz. Never understood Diary of a Madman.